You know, one of the great things about this is getting to meet so many great young people over the years. I've been a volunteer for almost 40 years now, and I've had a chance to meet a lot of great young men. And tonight I get to introduce one of my favorites. He is one of those people that as soon as you meet him, you know you've met someone special. And to be able to call him not only a brother, but also now a friend is very special. Tonight, our speaker will help us examine the reality of our mission in the real world. The world which is in dire need of ethical leaders devoted to love, honor, and truth. Just a few years ago, this young man sat where most of you are sitting as the incoming commander of his chapter. What he accomplished for his own chapter and what he has accomplished since graduation is truly exceptional. We are very fortunate he was able to arrange his schedule to be with us here tonight. Wells Ellenberg is a 2013 honor graduate of the University of Georgia. His executive education includes programs at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, the Georgetown University McDonough School of Business, and the University of Oklahoma Mewbourne College of Earth and Energy. As commander, Wells led the Mew chapter to its second consecutive Rock Chapter Award and Sigma Nu's first ever North American Interfraternity Council Chapter Award of Distinction. In addition to being selected as an Alpha Affiliate Award winner, Wells is the recipient of the 2014 NIC Undergraduate Award of Distinction and the 2013 Southeastern Interfraternity Conference Gregory R. Singleton Fraternity Man of the Year Award. And in 2012, he was named Sigma Nu's Man of the Year. Wells now resides in Atlanta, Georgia, where he serves as Vice President of Communication for Southern Company Gas. During his more than 10-year career with Southern Company, the largest energy utility in the United States, serving over 9 million customers, Wells has also directed the company's governmental affairs from Washington, D.C., and managed external affairs, internal communications, and media relations for its chairman, president, and chief executive officer. Prior to joining the Southern Company, he managed a campaign for the U.S. House of Representatives and held positions with the Coca-Cola Company and the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Georgia. Wells has previously served on the board of directors of the Sigma Nu Educational Foundation and as a collegiate grand councilman on the High Council. He also served on the board of directors of the UGA Athletic Association, is a past president of the Georgia State Society of Washington, D.C., and is the immediate past chairman of the UGA School of Public and International Affairs Alumni Board of Directors. He currently serves as on the school's Board of Visitors. In 2020, at the age of 29, the UGA Alumni Association recognized Wells as one of its 40 under 40 most outstanding young alumni for his personal, professional, and philanthropic achievements. In 2023, he was recognized with the UGA Blue Key Young Alumnus Award for his early professional and personal contributions to the state and to the nation. Brothers, join me in welcoming Wells Ellenberg.
It's great to be back at College of Chapters. This was an incredibly formative experience for me, both professionally and for my term as commander. And so Maury, Brad, Steve, the High Council, thank you for the opportunity to be back and to give back to a place and a program that has given me so much. It's also a slightly painful reminder that I'm not as young as I used to be. Steve mentioned that it was just a few years ago that I was sitting in your chair as the newly elected commander of my chapter. Believe it or not, it was 13 years ago. But my hope tonight is that hindsight is 2020, and I can share with you some words of advice and wisdom that I know now that I wish I had known then to help support you as you begin this journey as the commander of your chapter. Now, you've just had a big steak dinner. This is the second long day of a long weekend, and you've got a long day ahead of you tomorrow. And I'll be honest, my ADD usually kicks in after about the first 10 minutes. So I will keep this short and sweet. And I've really boiled it down to 5 pieces of advice that I want to share with all of you tonight. The first piece of advice is to be bigger than your own bottom line. In standing for election as commander and being elected by your peers, you have volunteered to take responsibility for yourself. The buck now stops with you. It's incumbent upon you to set the example in both your words and your actions. Because if you don't, who else will? But being commander, being a leader is more than just about being responsible for yourself. You also have to be responsible for your teammates, your brothers. There's that old saying, you are your brother's keeper. And I can promise you, you may feel it already, but if you haven't, you will. That burden is going to feel incredibly heavy at times. But I also hope you will look at it as a blessing. Because it used to be you could go to college, make mistakes, learn from them, be better for them, and then carry those lessons with you into the real world, into your life, into your career. But we live in a different world today with 24/7 news, with an insatiable appetite for provocative headlines, social media, where all it takes is one click of a phone for a viral photo or video to go live. Tom spoke yesterday about the epidemic that is fentanyl. All those things to say, you make a mistake today, it could have an irreparable impact on your life or your career, or God forbid, the life of somebody else. But in your brotherhood, you have a number of other men. When I was commander, our chapter was probably 140 men strong. And on that night or that day, when you make a mistake or you fall short of your values, and it happens to the best of us, in my case, I had 139 other men who were hopefully having a better day or a better night than I was. And they were there to stop me short of making a mistake that would have an irreparable impact on my life or my career or on the life of somebody else. When we talk about extending the helping hand, that's part of it. Looking out for your brothers. You are your brother's keeper. So you're responsible for yourself and for your brothers, but being bigger than your own bottom line also means being responsible for the enterprise. What does that mean? It's your chapter, but it's even bigger than your chapter. It's Greek life on your campus. It's our fraternity. When you're in college, it's really easy to think about things in short terms. Maybe a semester or a year or 4 years. In Athens, we usually think about things in terms of a football season, or in this case, the next football season. But when you graduate from college, you start to realize that this thing that is Sigma Nu, this brotherhood that is Sigma Nu, is so much bigger than a semester or a year or 4 years in college. You realize that when you're standing next to your fraternity brother as the best man in his wedding. You realize that when you hold the child of one of your fraternity brothers who calls you uncle even though you have no blood relation. I think I realized it most when 7 years ago I lost my dad. And standing at the pulpit, delivering his eulogy, I saw in the pews no fewer than 40 Sigma Nus that had traveled from all over the country to be there to support me and support my family on the hardest day of my life. That's the enterprise. That's the brotherhood. That is this thing that is so much bigger and greater and hopefully longer lasting than any of us in any of our term as commander. So guard it jealously. That's your responsibility. My second piece of advice is that value is a function of both risk and return. In my role at our company, I have a legal and a moral obligation to create value for the customers that I'm privileged to serve. And I have a fiduciary obligation to create value for the shareholders who invest capital in our company. You also, as commander, have a legal, a moral, a fiduciary responsibility to create value for your brothers and for your chapter. If value is a function of risk and return, you can create value by increasing returns, decreasing risk, or doing both of those things simultaneously. I can promise you most of the guys in your chapter are focused on returns and how they can increase them. As commander, you have to be one, perhaps the only person in your chapter, that is laser focused on the risk component of that equation. Because by managing, mitigating risk, you can create just as much, if not more, value for your enterprise, and you've got plenty of other folks in the chapter that are focused on returns. You've got to be focused on risk as well. My third piece of advice, it's safer to cross the road together. You've been elected to serve as commander to lead your chapter, but you are an equal shareholder with all the other men in the chapter. You all pay the same dues, right? You have an incredible and unique experience here at College of Chapters that unfortunately the rest of your brothers don't get to experience. And so as you think about what your vision is for the future and your strategy for achieving that vision, I hope you also think about how you're going to take those things back to your chapter and communicate them to your brothers and provide them opportunity to understand the what and, more importantly, the why. And also find a way to engage them so they feel they've contributed and shaped the vision and shaped the strategy, and they want to be a part of achieving it with you. It's about creating this ownership mentality where everybody is in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. When I was commander, I thought that chapter meetings were the most effective way to communicate things like vision and strategy. That's certainly one arrow in your quiver. But one thing that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of, because you're focused on efficiency, is the power of personal connections and relationships. Having those one-on-one conversations, understanding what motivates your members and how to get them motivated to be a part of the solution. It's also really important in the context of what Tom spoke about last night, because staying connected with your brothers is a way to keep a pulse on how they're doing academically, how their relationships are back home, how's their mental health, are they dealing with issues like substance abuse. At the end of the day, your obligation to excellence is an obligation to others. That's why you ran for the position of commander in the first place. So please don't lose sight of that. When I was elected an officer of our company, I was fortunate to sit down with our CEO. And I asked Chris for his advice as a young officer of a big company. And he said, Wells, you're making the transition fully now from individual contributor to leader of people. And as an individual contributor, you were caught up with activity. And that was good, right? That's what we paid you to do. But now as a leader of people, your biggest focus, your highest priority needs to be on your people. Don't get distracted by activity. Because if you empower, value, develop, support your people, they will support you in turn in allowing you to be successful. My fourth piece of advice: culture is incredibly powerful, but it can also be incredibly dangerous. Ask most leaders to define the culture of their organization. They'll talk about their values: love, honor, truth. They'll give you examples of some of their greatest accomplishments: charitable contributions, volunteer hours, leadership positions held on campus. That's all important. But if you ask our chief compliance officer how she would define culture, she would tell you that culture is defined by the behavior we're willing to accept. Culture is defined by the behavior we're willing to accept. When I was commander, a lot of times I was concerned about picking my battles and preserving political capital. But in retrospect, when you know something is counter to our values, when you know something is wrong, I encourage you, I implore you to address it quickly and forcefully. Because it may not show up on your balance sheet today, but eventually it will come to bear for you or for your successors. And those behavioral issues will compound over time, perhaps to the point of no return. I really enjoy studying Warren Buffett's letters to the shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway that he writes every year. He has two really great quotes in this respect. The first is that time is a friend of a wonderful business, but the enemy of a lousy one. His second quote is that the chains of habit are often too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. My last piece of advice: stay humble or you will be humbled. This is an incredibly challenging journey on which you have embarked. There is no way to prepare for what lies ahead. College of Chapters is a great start and will equip you with resources and tools and relationships to help you set you up for success as best we possibly can. But at your age and relative experience, there's no way to be fully prepared. But by staying humble, I think it allows you to do two things. One, it allows you to ask for help. I hope this College of Chapters experience has demonstrated to you that there are a lot of folks out there who want nothing more than for you to be successful, and we're a phone call away. When I was elected commander, Michael Berry, John Hearn, Robert Durham, others, alumni, leaders in our chapter, they said, Wells, you will undoubtedly face adversity. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and what. But when you do, so long as you're leading with vision and courage, and so long as you're choosing the harder right over the easier wrong, you give us a call, and we've got your back, and we'll stand behind you and beside you every step of the way. And they were right. Adversity comes, and it will come for you too. It doesn't matter how good you are, how hard you work. None of us is perfect, and we all make mistakes. But I will give those guys credit. They kept their word. They had my back. We made it through, and we were stronger as a result of enduring those challenges together. Humility also allows you the grace of knowing that you're going to make mistakes. But again, we oftentimes learn more through challenge than we do through opportunity. And the relationships, the tools, the resources you now have through your alumni, through College of Chapters, will allow you to weather those storms accordingly. I want to end with this. I was very fortunate to work for our former chairman, president, and CEO. And anytime Tom would go and speak to a group about leadership, he would always talk about the 3 rules for winning a fist fight. And at first it caught me a little off guard, but in retrospect, I think it sums up perfectly what we're doing and why we're here. So I want to share those with you tonight. The first rule for winning a fist fight is you pick the time and the place, and you get ready. By standing for election as commander and being elected by your peers, you have picked the time and the place. And by being here at College of Chapters, leaning in, engaging, being present, and making the most of this opportunity, you are getting ready. For any of you who've read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, he says that one of the greatest determinants of success in battle is the ability to influence the conditions under which the battle will be fought. You all, by being here and in the work you do as you leave here, are influencing the conditions under which this fist fight will be fought. The second rule for winning a fist fight is hit first. And when you do it, you better make it your best shot, because you may not get another one. And like I talked about earlier, chances are in today's environment, you're not going to get another shot. This is your one, best, only opportunity to go back to your chapter and do your absolute level best to take the things you've learned and the relationships you've made and leverage those to the benefit of your chapter over the next 12 months. The third rule for winning a fist fight is to kick them while they're down. In business school, I think they call that building a sustained competitive advantage. I like kick them while they're down better. What I like about that is it speaks to this notion, going back to my first piece of advice, that this is bigger than any one of you. Sure, over the next 12 months, you can take steps to guarantee the short-term success of your chapter, but what happens when you're no longer the commander, when you graduate? To me, kick them while they're down means, are you taking the time and making the effort to value and develop the folks coming up behind you to make sure that when you are no longer commander, they are ready, willing, and able to fill the void that you leave behind, so that you have the confidence of not only knowing that you served a successful term as commander, but you also have the optimism of knowing that the future continues to look bright, even when you're no longer on campus. So those are the 3 rules for winning a fistfight. I hope that's helpful to all of you. I have tried to be very frank and honest about the challenges ahead. I think a fistfight is an appropriate analogy. But as our governor of Georgia says, tough times don't last. Tough people do. And I know you all have the toughness and the grit and the hard work and the determination, and because of College of Chapters, the resources and the network you need to go forth from Roanoke and give it your best shot and be successful and lean on us where we can be a resource for you. And I hope you'll consider me one of those many resources available to you. Again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here and wish you all the very best. Thank you.